Welcome to AC3 Video Blog. We're going to do another segment in our AC3 DNA. This is part 5, and when we use the term DNA, we're talking about the basic building blocks that make Allen Creek Community Church what it is, kind of the genetic code that makes us...
Core values.
Yeah. Unique, some of the things that we really value. And one of them that we had adopted from the beginning, and if we want to really horsewhip this metaphor of DNA till it's, dead, we inherited this from Willow Creek Community Church, which was a big church in South Barrington, Illinois, if you've never heard of them. And a lot of us who were part of the early days of Allen Creek recognized Willow as kind of a parent, in a sense. So we get some of our genetic material, if you will, from them. I'm going to leave the metaphor
That's good.
there now.
It's working.
Isn't it? But at that point, it's going to start to get creepy. So I'm just going to put it aside and say that it wasn't our idea initially that we were going to embrace excellence.
Yeah.
Excellence is a core value at Allen Creek. That was something that we learned from the people at Willow Creek. So, Rick, you're more familiar with the Willow culture and whatnot. Let's talk about that. They're a big mega church. What now? A half dozen sites, probably 40,000 people, something like that, attending at all the multiple sites, international speakers and all this other stuff. What does excellence mean there in a Willow sense that we kind of started with? And then let's talk about what it's come to mean for us now.
Well, the first thing that we noticed when we're just exploring transitioning into a seeker model was that everything they did was done just to a high degree of excellence and care, and the craft that was put into just not everything you saw publicly, which was in the services, but then everything behind the services as well. So here's how that hit us. That hit us as kids who had grown up in evangelical, little podunk evangelical churches, Little Brown Church by the Dell, and they were churches where the unspoken deal was you can throw anything out there in terms of your service because it's God and He loves you.
So it's kind of like
when it was church, it just could be ham-handed. It could be your second best. It could be sort of whatever because it was for God.
He had to take it. It's like the parent with the kid who brings home, the macaroni glued, and look, Mommy, look, and it's of course the most amazing thing, because that's how God sees us, and there's some truth in that.
There is. So, but because we had taken it to a fault, literally, we had taken it to a fault, which was to the place where you could just throw whatever out there, and it was church because it didn't matter. But if you went to school and you were putting your project to your teacher, it had to be excellent.
So
if you were in business, it had to be excellent.
So there was almost this pull toward, it was hard to be a person of integrity because at church you could kind of go, whatever, it's just God. But everywhere else in your life,
the people expected it.
This kind of a thing. So there was almost a disconnect between these two things. So excellence at Willow, when we saw it, I remember the first thing I noticed.
Inspiring, right?
We went back there in 1995 for a big conference, and one of the first things I got, it was a big place, and the carpet's nice, and everything's clean, and da-da-da-da. But one of the first things I noticed is they served us food there, and there were volunteers, church volunteers, and I mean dozens of them, serving out, with the hairnet on and an apron, smiling, going... plopping stuff in our tray as we went by. They'd taken vacation time to just sit there and serve people who travel all over. And they did it well with it. And it's like, wow, excellence somehow reflected back on their view of God.
Yes, yeah.
How does that work? How can excellence reflect our view of God?
Well, it tied together with a sister value, which was servanthood. So like if I'm ready to serve you, then I'm ready to serve you with my best gift. And because I'm doing it for God, then I want to honor Him. So what we found is, and this has become axiomatic at Willow, and we found it to be true, that excellence honors God, and God's worthy of our very best, but it also inspires people. People are just inspired. Like you remember, you're just looking around there when people are serving you like that, going, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then when you're watching Christians give their very best, and people who are gifted to teach and to inspire and to use the creative arts. We're literally inspiring everybody with what they were doing. Their offerings were excellent.
And that's another component, as you say, that excellence kind of breeds, is it forces you to think about, what am I excellent at.
Yeah.
And you stop and look at spiritual giftings. That connects
Yeah,
really
it
potently to
does.
it too, which we value highly here, which is that everybody has some God-given gifts that it's not just that they're good at it, but they're passionate about it. And so when you start to embrace the idea of excellence, it kind of, you want to bring your game
Yeah.
up to those you see.
Yeah.
So, well, I can't do what that guy does, but what can I do?
Right.
What can I do really well? And also, I think one of the things that caught me at that point in my spiritual journey was I recognized a direct tie back to this ancient practice of worship. And we see it even in the Old Testament law. You bring your best lamb,
Right.
and you bring the first of your
Yes.
crops, and it's this. You bring your lover, right, your
Yeah.
spouse on. You don't bring wilty flowers
Yeah.
and a malformed pancake for breakfast in bed, right?
yeah.
You bring really nice flowers and the perfectly shaped heart-shaped pancake,
Yeah.
with the perfect little pat of butter on it,
Yeah.
right? That don't expect that. By the way, this is not happening.
This is not for Brenda.
Mother's Day. No, sorry. You'll get something better. But you bring your best. It's excellence because that speaks of your level of devotion, right?
Yes.
So that's a really important thing.
Yeah, it really is. And so now what we had to do over the years when we talk about excellence is to then make sure we understood what it's not. Because I think then
Okay.
some people can get intimidated by this. So we say, it's got to be excellent. You're offering it for God, to honor God and inspire people. But then people say, well, is that perfectionism? And so clarifying that excellence is not perfectionism, which can be very unhealthy, but is doing the best with what we have. So we may not have all of the resources, for example, at our church to make the physical environment everything we maybe want it to be. Or maybe we don't have the best teacher in Christendom at Allen Creek, for example.
Just the second
Just to pick a
best.
random example.
Just the second.
But we're hopefully going to do the very best with what we have, and that's giving God our best. And so that defines excellence away from an unhealthy emphasis on perfectionism.
Because that perfectionism thing, it actually takes that worship
Yeah.
component and it inverts it and makes it something. Now it's about self,
Yeah,
right? And rather than
exactly.
getting the focus on God, it's like, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
And that never happens in church.
No. Oh, wow.
All right, so excellence, doing the best you can with what you've got because you've been given those gifts, because it gives God the worship he deserves, because it inspires others.
Yes.
And here's the other thing I found after 20 years of doing this, it keeps it fresh and exciting, and there's that sense of what's next, what can
Yeah.
we do better?
Yeah.
And it keeps the church in a sense moving forward and innovating, right?
Yeah,
Because you
yeah,
want to do
that's
more.
it. You can be proud
So
of it.
excellence, one of the big values, part of the DNA of Allen Creek Community Church. Check in part 6. I don't know what we'll talk about then, but another core value at Allen Creek.
Yeah.
For information, stuff that's going on around here, check us out on the web, www.ac3.org. Make sure you check out your program every week. Listen to the announcements, newsletter, all kinds of information out there for you to keep up on what's going on around here. That was an excellent job, Nate. Nate, our
Yeah,
executive
this whole
producer,
thing.
makes these excellent.
These video
doesn't he?
blogs are excellent.
It's a great example, and it has nothing to do with the astounding talent in front of the camera.
Exactly.
We're the
It's-
talent.
It's post-production. He cleans it all up.
That's right. It's
Post-production.
post. We'll catch that in post.
Yeah.
Edit that out, because
This
Nate will
part.
get it. That part. Some excellence right here.
Just edit this part out.